Welcome to today's episode of What to Say and How to Say It, the podcast to help you fix your marriage. I'm Shy Lewis. I'm here with Nina Roesner. Our mission is to help you, Christian married man or woman, navigate conflict and build connection so you can have a thriving marriage. All right, so today we are talking about change and acceptance and how to know when you should go in either direction. So it's going to be a fun topic today. We know that, when people change, it's because it's a lot of work that's been done, or the Holy Spirit's intervened. Um, but it's not an easy road. And sometimes we don't get there. So we're going to talk about how to know when you need to accept that as the outcome or do something different. So before we get started, I want to mention our website, greaterimpactwives.org. This is where you can find a free PDF called 5 Tools for How to Stop Walking on Eggshells. We also have a free marriage assessment for you to check out. Take a few minutes, fill it out, and then reach out to someone and we'll get you in the right direction. All right, Nina, we're talking change versus acceptance. What comes to mind?
I hate it. Like I'm not any different. I don't like change, even though I'm a coach and I have a coach and I'm all about trying to change and being a better version of myself. Like I'm just human like everybody else and I don't like change. So I feel it for everybody listening. It's hard. So
Yeah, it is hard. And in the context of marriage, it's especially hard because marriage is something God uses to change us.
oh man. Yes.
Yeah,
Iron sharpening iron, heat and pounding in
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. It's something we go into with, rose-colored glasses, I think, and then some of us don't make it out. Or
Yeah.
the tint on those glasses ends up changing to something else, and I think it's because marriage isn't about happiness. We are told in the fairy tales and Disney that we're going to live happily ever after, and that's just not true. God's intent, if you're a Christian, is to become more like Him, and marriage is an avenue for that. So, um, yeah, I was thinking, how is it that you could possibly end up in a Disney fairy tale happily ever after if you've got two sinful people with two different backgrounds, two different personalities? You throw in some flesh in there, jobs, kids, responsibility, and lock the door.
Yeah. Well, and then given that most people don't have a secure attachment and don't know how to do relationships healthfully anyway, like it's a hot mess. It really is.
It's definitely a hot mess. And if you don't know Jesus when you're going in, you'll either get to know him.
Yep. Get to
You'll,
know
you'll
them better.
Yeah, you'll get to know him better, right? And
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
draw closer to him, because of the change, because of the sanctification, because of having to seek something higher, greater, more powerful than you, right?
Fair.
Yeah. So I was watching a couples therapist, and a quote she used was, "It's not often compatibility that makes relationships work, but she says it's the capacity to love someone who's different than you." And she even said that is really the best source of growth for us. And I thought that was interesting because, I would have never thought of it that way, that it's about the capacity to deal with someone being different, or the otherness, as she would put it.
Mhm.
Um, why do you think it's so hard for us to even understand that that's the challenge? It's you're dealing with someone that is just different than you. They think differently, and you're going to be more successful if you learn how to bear up under that.
Yeah, so in several of my coaching calls this week, we were actually talking about what is love exactly. And yeah, I'm dealing with people that are saying stuff like, I don't think I love my spouse. It's like, okay, what do you mean by that? Well, I don't feel whatever. I don't even like them. It's like, okay, but let's see. What does the Bible say love is?
Mm.
Patient, kind. Are you patient and kind with them? Well, no. Okay, so you're not you that okay. You don't do you envy them? Do you boast in front of them? And this is 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. uh, Arrogant, rude. When you get to those people like rude, okay, I've been all right. So I'm the opposite of love there. Insist on your own way. Do you have to have what you want? Are you irritable or resentful? Rejoicing at wrongdoing or rejoicing with truth, bearing all things, believing all things, hoping all things, enduring all things. Like we have a wrong definition, and it's because we watch too much Hallmark porn. The relationship movies. Those are relationship porn. I'm sorry. And so
Mhm.
don't get me sued by Hallmark, but with any kind of romance, like okay, Song of Solomon, and yes, that stuff exists. It happens in the beginning for a bit when people are like, I'm on my best behavior, I'm gonna be all about you. And then if you can breed successfully, you get that Twitter pated thing, but that's not love, ladies and gentlemen. That's, I can breed successfully. That's limerence. It wears off 6 months to 2 years. The biology dims down, but it's meant to communicate you can breed successfully. Because our genes and your genes, they connect with each other in terms of, okay, I'm going to have a recessive thing here. You have that too. I'm not going to be attracted to you. Like attraction has science behind it. So we don't know that. So we don't even know what it means to love someone. And if we look at, well, what does God say? God is love. He says, love your neighbor and love your enemies. So sometimes your spouse is both of those people. He's your closest neighbor and he's your enemy. What does it mean to be loved? To love them? Well, it might just mean being kind and patient. So sorting all of that out to have the right definition is exactly spot on with what your point is that this is to be holy because that's how we communicate who God is. That's how we experience God is through love. He's pretty patient and kind with us, just, those first two. So we want to get the definition right and not be having we have the wrong expectation. So if we can adjust that and think differently about the marital relationship versus some, roller coaster, wonderful, exhilarating, great ride at a fair or something, that is just fun and, cupcakes all the time and unicorns and rainbows. Like it's not meant to be like that. It's a place of comfort and strength and growth for both people. We
Yeah,
just need to look at it differently, I think, to start.
yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about growth. I think sometimes we often confuse growth with control. To your
Mm.
point, when you said patience, or when God says patience is love. Um, I think when we look at the process of change, which we kind of talked about last week, and the catalyst for it, and what are some things that help push it along, I think sometimes we think we need to get involved, especially if it's not us, it's our spouse. We think we need to help them with that. And that's not really how change happens. It doesn't happen through force. It usually comes when truth is spoken with grace, when we have a surrendered heart. Uh,
Mhm.
Pressure, yes, helps, but oftentimes that transformation we're looking for, it's not as quick or as forceful as we imagine it to be.
Yeah. Well, and there's been tons of leadership studies done around this that when somebody is controlling and forceful as a presence, the workers they're there, so they'll be like, oh my gosh, I better get my widgets made, and they put their energy into that. And then as soon as the boss leaves, they're like, okay, I don't have to do that now because I'm not being watched over. So that that pressure, as soon as the pressure is relieved, they go back to doing what they were doing. And when you look at what does transformative love do, it allows people to make mistakes. It allows people to show up the way that they are, even if they're a hot mess, and still be treated kindly, respectfully, and called up to a higher level of being with truth. And so all those things come together in a really beautiful way of transforming people's lives. You know, a lot of times we rescue too much
Hmm.
or we do things for others so they don't have to bear the brunt of their circumstances. And, it just, that doesn't work. The jury's in on that. It never works. So love is patient while somebody else is sorting themselves out. It's hard to watch sometimes. But to your point, the controlling thing, that's not love.
Right. Right. Control is based in fear, and fear is
Yep.
the opposite of love. So it's all
Yep.
biblical. Okay. Let's talk about acceptance. Because, there is a point where you have to resolve that the situation or the person isn't changing. And in order to move forward, there has to be a stage or at least a phase or whatever you want to call it of acceptance. And I think about the grief stages of grief and how that's the last stage. And oftentimes, once we finally get there, that is when change often does happen, is because
Yep.
we've finally accepted the reality of the situation. Any thoughts there around acceptance and the difference in trying to move things along with change?
Well, we have to let go and let God. You hear that phrase, it's on coffee cups. Um, it's a capturing the heart of scripture, which is stop being controlling, let God do what he's going to do. But to your point, unless we accept somebody, and it's, the ACCEPT, unless we receive them as they are and accept the reality of this is who they are, and we're causing ourselves and probably them pain by wanting something that isn't real in the now that we're in.
Mhm.
Um, there's, I have worked with people whose spouses have had affairs and have been engaged in those affairs at the moment, and they can't move past the betrayal. And it's like, okay, you need to accept that this happened to you,
Mhm.
and then you need to accept that your spouse is doing this. And then the next question is, what are you going to do in the midst of this? Because you're spending a whole lot of time wishing this wasn't true. And that's just causing you pain. It is true. It is real. It's what's going on. It's like pretending your ankle's fine and you just want to go run a marathon or something. This is not going to happen. So you can't create a reality that is based in lies without accepting this is what I have to work with. And when you do that, you stop fighting against it.
Mhm.
And it's not that you're embracing and saying, okay, this is great. I'm so glad. Like nobody's asking you to do that. We
Mhm.
are saying that unless you acknowledge and receive reality for what it is, you can't really impact it because you're operating in some fantasy land out there wishing things were different. Nobody moves forward, you or your partner, when that's where your mind is. So change does not occur without acceptance.
Yeah. I'm thinking about the couples who've been together for 30, 40, 50 years, and maybe it's not an affair, but maybe it's like he leaves his socks on the floor, or she talks through the
Yeah.
movies. And if you're a newlywed, something like that might really get your ruffles feathered. But usually those are the folks that are like, yeah, that's who they are. They've been doing
Mm-hmm.
it for 40 years, so
Mm-hmm.
I've come to accept that. Um, I think that is a sign of spiritual maturity. Again, this
Yeah.
isn't like the major stuff we're talking, but things like that are quirky and not essential, I guess, is
Yeah.
what I'm thinking.
Well, you have a lot of people, surprisingly enough, that get really upset about those minor things. Like it drives
Mhm.
them crazy. And it's like, yeah, that's not love. You're not patient. God's allowing all this garbage for you so that you'll become more patient because guess what? You're quirky too. We all are. And a lack of just acknowledging some of that stuff. And then one of the things is people don't ask for what they need. So if I can't focus on the movie because my spouse is talking on the phone or talking over all of it, I'm gonna say something about that. And if he says, "Well, this is how I do it," I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna use headphones and plug in differently then because this doesn't work for me." So, you have to figure out what works for you and ask for what you need in some of those spaces. And then at the same time, you have to go, this person has been leaving their socks on the floor for 40 years, and the dog's been stealing every one of them, for the multiple dogs. They always steal the socks because that's what dogs do. Have you seen my socks? No, honey. You know, where's my other sock? I don't know. You'll have the same conversation thousands of times. Can you
Mhm.
just find it funny? you know, because you're going to miss that when they die. You
Yeah.
absolutely will.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
same question every single day. What happened to my socks? I just took them off for a little bit.
Yeah.
Beef. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the mountain and molehill thing, right? You learn
Yeah.
to pick your battles and use wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, how do we know when we need to do that versus when we need to choose confrontation? Sometimes to your point, it's necessary to bring something up. It's necessary to enter into that conflict. How do you know when to accept versus enter and engage in that?
Well, I think we should always accept that this is reality as a
Mhm.
first step, 100%. And then we ask God,
Mhm.
is this a sin against me? Most of the time it's not, right? Then we ask him, do you want me to say anything here? Am I being selfish? Am I the one that needs pruning? Are you allowing this and it's bugging the tar out of me because I need to change? Or am I supposed to, you know, say something in this space to ask for something different? And what do you want me to do? When you know the creator of the universe and you listen to the Holy Spirit, he answers questions like that. And then you do what he says, and it's the right thing, no matter how it goes. Now, if you do it rudely, because love is not rude, well, that's on you. But if you can do it kindly and patiently and
Mhm.
give people time to change, then you might end up with something different. Because your spouse doesn't, if you believe that your spouse sits around and thinks of ways to bother you, you're wrong. They're not doing that. Most of the time, they're not.
Mhm.
If they are, they have a severe mental disorder and should be locked up. But that's not most people.
Right.
But yeah, if we're thinking, if we're ascribing negative motive to them, that's our heart that's not
Mhm.
listening to the Lord about them because He loves them. And we make mistakes too. We leave our coffee cup on the kitchen counter instead of putting it in the dishwasher. We forget to bring the dog in, you know, and they dug up part of the flower bed. Like we make mistakes. So why should we hold somebody else to a standard of perfection? We shouldn't. So accept reality first and then ask God, what do you want me to do with this?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. That's step number one. And I think that's a great way to keep yourself in check. Because, I'm one of those people where I can run without the Lord. And so it's a great reminder to start with Him and not
Mhm.
stop with Him because
Right?
He's going to have His way anyway.
Yeah, there's that.
All right. Another thing I think is helpful is to check the motive of why you want this change to happen. Sometimes we want the change because it makes life easy for us. And we're good at uh, how do I say making it seem like it's a win for everyone when it's really just a win for us. And
No, really? Isn't that called manipulation?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Lord knows the difference, right?
Uh-huh.
He says we don't get what we want because we ask with the wrong motives. That's Bible. So
Yeah. Yep.
probably a good idea to make sure your heart motive is right.
Uh-huh. 100%. Somehow he knows.
And then also think about your capacity, I think is important. Do you have limitations? Are you truly troubled about this, or can you extend grace? I think that also is another way of keeping yourself in check. And sometimes you don't want to believe you have these limitations. Sometimes you overextend yourself in the other direction and think you can give grace, and this is a place where you need to have a boundary actually. So yeah, I think that's important as well.
The Lord is whapping me upside the head with your words right now.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, uh-oh. Okay.
No, this is so good. I really want cows for our farm. I just want like two or three of them. I want to have cows, have baby calves and raise our own beef. I right now we have 30, 35 turkeys. They're heritage birds and they're crazy. They're out of their pen every day. It's a lot of work.
Mm.
And I've got the horse on the property. I've got like 10 chickens, something like that, a couple ducks, and two big dogs. I'm exhausted. I've got sleep apnea that's not been solved yet. I'm exhausted. And my husband's like, I don't want to do cows right now. And I'm kind of mad that he doesn't want to do cows right now. And I've been like long suffering about my desire to do cows. And I'm thinking I'm so great because I'm being kind and patient around that. And the Lord just like through your words went, you don't have capacity for cows, girlfriend. Like, what are you thinking? Oh, yeah, I should probably wait until I'm healthier to actually get the cows or really pursue that. There's wisdom in that. And I didn't know that we were going to be coaching me today, but apparently that just happened.
All
It,
right.
no, it's a great point. Do you
Yeah.
have capacity for change right now? Hmm. That's a thing to think about.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna get off of that.
Okay.
Let the Holy Spirit deal with you.
Yeah, it's happening. Let me tell you. My husband will be happy.
Confirmation.
Yep.
Okay, the next point is seek wise counsel. Sometimes an outside voice can help bring clarity to which direction you need to go in, and coaching as well. That's what we do here. So, any thoughts around how that's helpful to know which way to go?
Well, it just happened to me, so I think it's always
Oh,
beneficial. No,
well,
I mean, it's biblical to get advice. You know,
yeah.
seeking counsel is always a good idea as long as you're not gossiping about it, right? So you get advisors and it makes things go better. That's biblical. So, um, and I did talk to people about cows, by the way, and how to do cows. But the capacity piece won out. That was just astonishing. Okay, move on. Yeah. So,
Okay, all
yeah.
right. Here we go.
All
Last
right.
point is okay. It's okay to have standards. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. We want to have standards. We want to make sure we do things in, decency and in order, um, but with humility, not control. And so sometimes that can be tricky because you have the standard, but maybe your spouse doesn't have that same standard. And then it becomes, well, whose standard is more godly, right? And so I don't know. Any thoughts around how to navigate that?
Well, I think you gotta go to the Bible. What's the source?
Yeah.
And one of the biggest problems that couples have is they fight in ways that are not kind and are rude and impatient and irritated, and they do those things. And so stop doing that.
Mm.
Um, Even if it's your spouse or even if it's you that's getting emotional in that moment, stop it because nothing good is going to come from that. So it's not about which of you is more biblical or right, because
Mhm.
everybody wants to have that argument, right? How
Yeah.
about both of you are wrong right now if you're going to keep going? So
Mm.
let's not play.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let the Lord be the one that's right.
Amen.
Okay, let's move to our next segment. This is our question of the day. This is where we pull questions from our students, from our clients, and they're often relatable. Something we've either been through ourselves or we know someone who has. And one client writes, she says, last night my husband and I got into an argument. She was disrespectful. She says he left angry and hadn't come home yet. He won't answer his phone or his text messages. She thinks he's trying to punish her, and that crosses a line for her to not hear from him for hours. She's been afraid. She's now angry. And they're supposed to go away for the weekend, she says, but now she kind of doesn't want to be around him. And she says she doesn't need to punish him. She forgives him, but she just doesn't know how to respond in a strong and dignified way. And she usually kind of caves into his bad behavior. So, any tips for her?
Yeah, wow. She needs strength and dignity. That's a hot mess right there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of things that are a hot mess about it. The perspective that an adult can be punished by another adult, first of all. Like,
Yeah.
why are you assuming that you're a child in this relationship? And then why are you trying to be parental? You don't want to punish him. Like, why are those your thoughts? What is that even about? There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot underneath that that needs sorting through because that whole mindset, and it's the same as tit for tat. Like it's like if you I will, it's none of that's healthy. That's not how healthy relationships work. And it's a mess because he's doing an avoidant thing and she's chasing by texting and calling. And of course she would be afraid. But when somebody leaves, you let them go. Let them go. Let them just do their thing. Leave them alone. Let them come back, right? So now she's tying this thing to this other thing, which is not related, but it's because she feels bad and she has no way of processing any of that.
Mm.
So I'd say go to our website, get the
Yep.
PDF, learn
Mm-hmm.
what you need to do because you don't have the emotional management because you're child and parent and then hooking things together that shouldn't be hooked together. There's a lack and I mean this with all love in my heart here as a wise woman who's been there, done that, and I'm not perfectly wise by any stretch of the imagination. I could have written this in my 20s. Grow up. This thing you're doing here is childish and it doesn't work in relationships. And if you don't know what that looks like, that's okay. A lot of people don't.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a path to mature in that space. That's what we do. We help people grow into those things, maturity wise. And it can be different. He doesn't know what to do. That's why he left.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we can sort something different. And that's what I'd encourage her to do. Just reach out and get some help with that.
Yeah. A lot of times we do things that we've either seen others do or we've seen in our own home, and we have not really been taught the right way to interact.
Mhm.
We don't have the tools, we don't have different pathways in our brain to even
Yep.
to try. And that's the beauty of coaching is, you open yourself up to relating in a new way, and it works. That's the other thing. We don't always believe there's another way that will work for us, but inviting the Lord in, somebody with wisdom who's been there, done that,
Yeah.
and you'd be surprised at the outcome. So, yeah.
What's neat is in the couples work that we do, the 6 month project that we have. Yeah, I love working. I would love to get both of these people, because
Hmm.
they can both change. To your point, the whole podcast today is about change. We can
Hmm.
help them both change together and create something new and beautiful in a space where there's just pain. That it doesn't have to be like that. So,
Yeah. Well, we hope this was helpful for you today. Once again, take a minute, check out our website. Also, check out the next episode on how to handle difficult people in difficult situations. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.